Hello again, precious friends. Not too long ago, I talked to you about how positive thinking kind of got overrated. Well, it kind of turned into kind of a religion that if positive thinking, as people commonly understand it, and just looking on the bright side didn't really help you much, that, maybe there was something wrong with you. And I asserted that no, there's nothing wrong with you. If you've had a tough time, if you've had difficulty in your life and it's left you in kind of a downturn in your outlook about life, that's absolutely normal. And I don't want you to feel guilty about it. But we also talked about how we can restore positivity because living with a negative mindset is tremendously draining energy wise. And I understand that. So I wanted to talk to you about how to go about making yourself feel more positive. Okay. And keep in mind, it's very simple, but not particularly easy sometimes. But the first step is, my friends, and honestly, this really works. The first step is practicing gratitude. I know it can be really difficult to practice gratitude when it just feels like there's nothing to be grateful for. But if you stop and you look around, if you think about it kind of inversely, you'll figure out that regardless of how bad your life is for the vast majority of people, there's always some way it could be worse. And if that's where you're stuck, it's absolutely okay to just say, well, I'm glad at least that I have the energy to get out of bed today. Because what if you couldn't? So if that's all you've got, friends, go ahead and practice that. When you're tempted to just ruminate on how negative and how awful everything is, that's when you want to try to turn your attention to something that you can be grateful for. And it can be the simplest thing. I'm grateful that I have energy to at least get out of bed in the morning. I'm grateful that my dog loves me. I'm grateful that my coffee tastes good this morning. It can be as simple as that. Try to stop when you feel trapped in that despairing, ruminative attitude where it seems like all you can do is think about how horrible things are. And you know what? What I don't want you to do is imagine that that's going to make you feel better all at once. Because healing is a process and it takes time. I'm going to tell you a story. My sister is a very good horsewoman, and she's had horses since she was a little girl. And she has a horse now that she has a really good relationship with. And in fact, they trust each other enough that my sister has been known to go out on short trail rides without a saddle and sometimes without a bridle either, just a halter and a rope, and go on short trail rides, even galloping. Well, one day, her horse, named Lily, spooked at something, and my sister wasn't using a saddle or a bridle. And Lily spooked and bucked and threw her, and she landed hard on the trail, breaking her shoulder and hitting her head and losing consciousness. Well, praise the Lord, there were people in the vicinity who came along not too long of a time later and saw a riderless horse just standing in the middle of the trail because Lily, who was a good girl, overcame her startle and came back and just stood by my sister because she didn't know what else to do. And like I said, she was a good girl. She is a good girl. I don't want. She's still around. Anyway, so long story short, the people managed to get emergency services out to the trail who took my sister to the hospital, and they managed to get her fixed up. She had surgery on her shoulder and she had a concussion, but she recovered. We were told that she would recover fully from her concussion, and Lily was taken back to the barn by the Good Samaritans. So we were all, of course, overjoyed to learn that my sister would be expected to recover fully from this situation, which she subsequently did. Now, my sister also had very good insurance, so this sojourn in the hospital and this recovery period wasn't even going to turn out to be a serious financial burden for her. And I want you to know that when my sister heard that she was completely taken care of and stabilized once she woke up in the hospital not till after the surgery. When she found that she had been thrown, but she was expected to completely recover, and that her temporary disability wasn't even going to be a financial problem, why, she just felt so much better with all that good news that she just jumped right up and said, let's go home. No, of course not. She had every reason in the world to feel positive about the future at that point. But she still felt like shit because she was in pain, because she'd been injured. And healing is a process and takes time. Okay, so everybody can see immediately the ridiculousness of assuming that someone who's been injured and gets all the good news in the world would still be in pain and feel like shit for a period of time. So what I want to tell you, my friends, is this exercise of practicing gratitude is not meant to make you feel better in the moment. That takes practice. I want you to have compassion on yourself. Do practice the gratitude because it will help. It's not a cure-all. There's more that you can do, and we will go into that. But at first, like I said last time, the first thing to do is to practice compassion for yourself. And the next thing to do is to practice gratitude. And the next thing to do on top of that is to be patient with yourself. You won't remember to stop and do this at first. And that's okay. Because, as I said, it takes practice. And when you do remember, you won't remember reliably. You'll remember sometimes and not remember others. And that's okay too. Do not denigrate yourself. Do not beat yourself up. Just tell yourself when you realize that you've forgotten to do it, okay, next time I'll do it. And even if you forget that time too, okay, next time I'll do it. The more pressure you put on yourself, the less likely you are to remember. And if you beat yourself up for not remembering, the more likely you are to just get frustrated with yourself and quit. Okay, it does work, friends. I remember one day I was really angry. I was practicing this. I wasn't very good at it yet, but I remember one day I was angry at something that had happened at work. And I hadn't been real reliable with this, but in that moment, I remembered. And I remembered to look around for something to be grateful for. And I looked out of a window that was near my workstation, and I realized that it was a beautiful day outside. And that I had a moment that I was able, pretty much right then, to go outside and enjoy the sunshine and the cool breeze and the pleasant weather. And when I realized that, and just thought about being grateful for that, you know what? All of a sudden, I felt better. And it was kind of the first time that had happened. But shortly after that, the thought of retraining my focus when I was going down the downward spiral, so to speak, became habit. And it started to be pretty automatic. When I would have a horrible thought that would ordinarily have sent me down the drain, so to speak, to refocus. And actually, it did start making me feel better. I actually started feeling happier and less troubled by the negativity. It really does work, my friends. The secret is give yourself permission to not be good at it at first. Anything that's a practice means you have to practice. And it means you're not going to be real good at it at first. So give yourself compassion, Give yourself patience. Stick to it. It absolutely can't hurt. So there's no reason not to give it the good old go. Okay, please try this, my friends. If you're struggling with negativity, there's more that you can do, but we'll have to address that at a later time. I want you to go one step at a time. Okay, don't overwhelm yourself when you're trying for a behavioral change. That's a plan for failure. Okay, so peace, love, and meat. You can do this. I love you all. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.